The objective of the lid locking test is to ensure the spindle of the lid remains locked at pressures 2 psi and greater. When the pressure releases, it's also to make sure that the spindle does not unlock until the pressure drops below 2 psi. During the test, also verify if the existing pressure gauge displays pressure in a similar range to the calibrated test gauge. If the calibrated test gauge kit is set up for use on the 8-head fryer, remove the reducer and the T-fitting of the fixture. Then install the supply elbow into the T-fitting with pipe thread sealant. This elbow will be used for the existing safety relief valve that is removed from the fryer. Remove the deadweight cap and deadweight. Then remove the safety relief valve. When removing the safety relief valve, use an adjustable wrench on the hex nut at the top of the valve. Do not use a pipe wrench, as this will cause the tube to deform. This is also an ideal time to inspect this valve following the safety relief valve PM instructions. Make sure that there is no debris or instructions between the fry pot outlet through to this elbow. If there are any obstructions, remove them by using a pipe snake or by disassembling the plumbing to gain easier access to the obstruction. Install the calibrated test gauge in the elbow using pipe thread sealant. Thread the existing safety relief valve into the elbow in the calibrated test gauge plumbing. Also use pipe thread sealant here. Before starting the procedure, adjust the limit stop so that the red ball reaches the 7 o'clock position when sealing the lid. To do this, loosen the 2 set screws on each side of the limit stop. Then lower the limit stop about a quarter turn. Then retighten the 2 set screws. Test to make sure that the red ball will now turn to the 7 o'clock position before starting the procedure. If not, lower the limit stop another quarter turn. Have the store bread and cook at least 2 head of original recipe. Pressure will rise quickly after the cook cycle is started, so be ready to perform the test at this point. After the cook cycle is started and when the pressure on the calibrated test gauge reaches 2 psi, gently turn the spindle counterclockwise using 2 hands so the red ball lines up with the 6 o'clock position. The locking pin should engage the spindle, causing the spindle to lock in place with almost a snap when the red ball moves to 6. If the spindle was to continue to turn past the 5 o'clock position without locking, immediately stop turning the spindle and let the cook cycle finish. If this were to happen, the locking pin test would fail and the fryer would need to be taken out of service until the locking pin issue is addressed or the lid is replaced. During the cook cycle, when pressure reaches 12 psi, compare the existing pressure gauge with the calibrated test gauge. The existing pressure gauge should read in a similar range. If it is not, replace the existing pressure gauge after the test. If pressure during the cook cycle exceeds 14 psi, this does not fail the test as long as the locking pin engagement and disengagement steps pass. However, after the test, the deadweight and all related plumbing would need to be thoroughly cleaned or replaced. When pressure exhausts and nears the 2 psi mark, using 2 hands, gently turn the spindle counterclockwise. If you are able to turn the spindle to the 5 o'clock position, immediately stop turning the spindle as the spindle was not locked. This step of the inspection would not pass, and the fryer would need to be taken out of service until the lid assembly could be replaced. To pass the inspection, the spindle should remain locked and not move at 2 psi when trying to turn the spindle. If the pressure was slow to release at the end of the cook cycle and did not reach 0 psi when the timer reached 0, this would not fail the inspection. However, this is an indication that the pressure solenoid and or its related plumbing may be sticking or obstructed. After the test, clean the solenoid and the related solenoid plumbing back to the steam exhaust stack. Finish up the inspection by removing the calibrated test gauge and remove the deadweight cap and deadweight. Use caution as these will be hot. Reinstall the existing safety relief valve following the steps as indicated in the safety relief valve procedure. If this valve did not pass inspection, install a new one.